Hi guys, this is the Work Your Money podcast with host Michelle Long, and I have a great guest. His name is Chris Struck, and he has a great book called Kennig Gold.
All right, thanks Michelle for having me. My pleasure to be here.
It's great to have you. So we were talking a little bit before we started to go on air, and he was just basically telling me the dynamics of writing. I wrote in high school. It's been a very long time since I've written anything. And basically Chris was just giving me a little bit of feedback about the industry and what it entails to be a writer and his journey with writing his book. And this is one of many books that he has written, but it's the first one that is published, which is very exciting.
Yeah, it is. It's been an excellent journey so far. It's opened a lot of doors to interesting experiences, and I just hope that it keeps going on that track. So a little bit about writing in general. I think that when you say you used to do it, I used to do it too. I think the only difference really is that I started one day and didn't stop, and I'm lucky that I didn't stop. And had I not kept going and writing like manuscript after manuscript after manuscript, I never would have gotten to the point where I actually published one. And being able to actually feel confident enough with a manuscript to just go and self-publish it, that was a little bit of a challenge for me. And I think that I'm glad that I ended up doing it because it, like I said, it's opened the door to so many different experiences that I wouldn't have been able to do. And it's been a fun journey.
So now, I know that because we are in the same writing workshop, and you've been with them since the beginning, correct?
No, I've been there since January 2016.
Okay, so like almost a year?
Yeah, about a year and a half now.
Oh.
Since Damien took over, I've been with the Writers Workshop, and he's been a really good resource and mentor, and he's helped refocus kind of what I want to do in terms of being more artist focused and passion project focused rather than just focusing on pure business or looking for kind of like look more for what will be successful rather than what has been successful. I think that's one of the things he's definitely brought to the table and encouraged, and I think that that's made it a lot more exciting of a process writing for tomorrow's audience rather than today's.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Damien Tillman, who is the organizer of the New York City Writing Workshop. I've been there a couple of times. Unfortunately, I can't attend that often because it falls on a Saturday, and those Saturdays is when I'm recording. So when I'm not recording, I do go to his workshop. It's a great workshop. I met quite a few interesting people apart from you. Very established people. Some of them write. They're screenwriters for plays, and they've written their own books, and they've had it published. So it's a great place to go if you're looking to expand in the creative realm.
He's very thought-provoking also. He asks really good questions, and he gets you thinking about problems or issues in society on a deeper level and relating it to how or what we write about. And he's a really good poet. I never would be able to have kind of that way with words that he does in terms of being so provocative, but I try to do something similar through prose, and hopefully I can live up to his level.
But you know what? You're doing great things as well, because I know that through conversation you have written other books as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the other books.
The other books? Well, some of them really suck.
But listen, this is how I see it. You might think of it as not being so good.
Yeah.
I see it as being good enough that you're actually taking action and
going to the next level.
and writing it, because there's some people might say, hey, I want to, but they never, like me, I'm guilty of that. I've been saying I want to write this book, and I am at some point with my co-writer sit down and all of that, but I haven't physically done it. It's like, I would say it's similar as someone that is trying to go to the gym and say, hey, I want to be fit, and they say, I want to go, They'll might go 1 or 2 days
Yeah.
here and there, and then it's like, okay, I'm not doing this again.
The advantage of the gym, though, is that you see your progress.
Yeah.
And with writing, you really don't. The best way of describe, I mean, each one of my manuscripts has been a learning experience for different reasons, but you never really see your results in anything other than what people complain about. And so, like when you first write, they complain about this, and then when you write the next one, they don't complain about that anymore. So they only complain about something new, and then you kind of like, at some point, they complain about something so like simple that you're sitting there like, well, I guess I'll take those complaints because they're better than the ones that I already had. So you kind of have to just keep going, and I mean, I rarely get compliments on my writing in terms of from like editors or friends. They're more like, well, you can do this better, you can do this better, you can do this better. So I just had to kind of take what I did do well as, you know, what doesn't distract people from the story anymore. So you fight battles, you fight which battles you can win.
So let me ask you this: you just mentioned that you get feedback from people. Some of them are not so great. Is that a reflection of why you think your previous books were not so good? Is it because of their opinion, or is it because of how you truly feel about your own work?
Well, part of it is other people's opinion, but also it is how I feel too. Like, I mean, we grow every year, learn new things, experience new experiences, and then you go back to an old book that you wrote when you were like 15 or something, and you're sitting there like, wow, this reads like it's written by a 15-year-old. Like, and I don't want to write a book that is that simple. I don't want to write a book that doesn't challenge me to be a better person today. So sometimes I'll read a book and I'll be an old book that I wrote, I guess, and I'll sit there and be like, oh, it's not so bad. But other times I'll think, well, there's a lot that I could do better, and it's just a matter of now, do I ever have the time or the willpower to go back and change what I want to do better with those books. So yeah, this one is the 6th book I've written completely through. It's the 5th, and the 5 ones before it, only one of them I actually kind of like. The other 4, I guess, are like the trunk books that, you know, maybe the world will never see.
You can't say never. You can't say never. You never know. Listen, I see it this way. It's a progression. You evolve as an individual. Take some of the feedback that you get from the people, but take that as a fuel to just keep going at it, because you already published one book.
Yeah.
So I can see you publishing more to come, and you can be the next Stephen King or any other writer.
Yeah,
and listen, it's not if you're lucky. You just have to have that mindset and say, I will.
I mean, it's a lot of hard work, and it's something that I've always tried to do, and we were talking a little bit about it earlier. You know, what makes Stephen King, what makes Chris Struck. Like, I think that it is all just hard work, and I think that you have to put in every day a certain amount of pages. And that's why I said, like, a lot of times what you're learning when you write a book is not, you know, what is the nitty gritty of a sentence structure, or, you know, what makes a gerund phrase something different from an appositive phrase or something like that. It's more like, you know, what can I do? How much can I get done in a day? What does it look like once I'm done with it? And how much like rework do I actually have to do? And what is my editing process going to look like? And so for my 3rd book, way back in the day, I decided I was going to write 5 pages a day. And I did that, but it was a horrible book. And I sent it to an editor, and he tore it apart. And I took all that feedback, and I said, all right, let's do better for the next one. So immediately afterwards, I said, I'm going to write 10 pages a day. I'm going to take all this guy's feedback and I'm going to put it in the next book. So I did all that. I sent the same guy the next book, and he tore it apart again. And I didn't really like his feedback as much in terms of it. There wasn't really as much there that was helpful, but I knew also that I could do a better job in the next one. So I kind of did a little bit more research, did a little bit more reading, wrote another one at 10 pages a day, and then felt confident enough with it to start sending it to agents, got no response, and decided, you know what, we'll write yet another one based off of what my experience was so far. And since I had done it twice before at 10 pages a day, I was like, I can do it again. And did. And that was this one. So.
But you know what? I have heard other people's stories where it's a little bit similar, where they've received all types of opinion, feedbacks, and so forth. And what sets them apart is that they just keep going.
Yeah.
They've had their moments where they've had their pitfalls, they've had their struggles, but they continue on. When you have a passion for something, it's not going to die.
Yeah.
It's just going to keep. It's just going to keep going. And for you to go into this book, from all of the things that you've put together and took in from previous, trying to accomplish everything previously, and you took all of that, those opinions and everything else, it turned into something more positive with what you have here with this book.
Yeah.
And I want you to give insight of what this book is about, like where you were when you wrote it, the content of the book. Don't give away anything, but just give us a little bit of that, so our listeners can get a gist of what your book is about, and also for them to go out and make a purchase and buy your book.
Yeah.
This would be a great opportunity to definitely plug it in, because
there are a lot of different angles I can take with pitching the book. One of the ways that I've been talking about it now is that it's Bandstand, the new Tony Award-winning Broadway play, meets Romeo and Juliet.
Okay.
And what I really wanted to do with the book, because this was the idea for it and the actual writing of it mirrored the election cycle, was I wanted to keep it like a positive story about cross-political love. And that was really what drove me to write it, because I had read a study that in 1950, 90% of parents believed that dating somebody across political lines was all right. But in 2010, it was like 40%. And so that huge shift in terms of like being accepting of other people's ideas, I thought was something that was really dangerous for our country and for society in general. So I had the great privilege of meeting a World War II Marine here in the city, one of my very good friends now, Niels Hansen, and he was a really interesting character. He told me his story of love lost back in 1947, and I was like, could I tweak this a little bit? I asked him for permission, and turn it into a story that related to what we're seeing today, and that became Kennig Gold. And he's actually blind, so I just finished reading it to him a few weeks ago, and it's like his story, mixed with a singer's career instead of a politician's, because he went into politics after his story unfolded in 1947, and this one is set in 1948.
Oh wow! Okay, and how was his reaction to find out that you
wrote the story?
Yeah, that you wrote the story, and it's based on his experiences.
I think he was really excited for the process to begin, and he was really interested in helping kind of design how the story unfolded. He liked the story. He's been talking about kind of what could we do next. Like, can we get it on Broadway as a play? Can we get people to do a cabaret or something? Or we haven't talked about movies, obviously, because that's like a totally next level from that. But it's been really interesting to kind of see how people react and what they want to do to help, and how excited they are about a story that is not so unique in terms of like historically, but contextually it's definitely something that has a little bit of a different flavor than stuff that's out today.
Wow. Okay, that is definitely a very good thing.
Yeah.
To see someone be so excited and say, "Hey, let's see what else we can do." that's a great feeling.
Yeah.
And to chime in on what you were saying about possibly doing film or a Broadway show or anything like that, I can actually talk to you about that. My business partner, Marcus, he's not here today because he has other things to do. He works with hedge funds, and they have a new networking event that they do every Wednesday evening. And basically what they do is they help find funding for people that want to start projects.
Wow.
So if it's TV or film. On the flip side of that, I also have a very good friend. He has a production company for TV and film. There's two of them. His name is Anton, and the other friend, who's also his business partner, his name is Ricky. And they take independent films. So basically what they do is they take independent films, they do investing in those particular projects, but they do it within a budget. So instead of spending, $5 million on a film, they would be budget conscious and they do it for less than that, but it's still great product.
Yeah.
So I can definitely connect you to them two and see how we can take this wonderful story that you wrote and see if we can bring it to life on film.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, thanks, Michelle. I think one of the coolest things about writing this story versus other ones is that I wanted to kind of see if I could come up with a character that was memorable by, especially herself, the female lead in the story, that people would grow up wanting to play the role of that character in something. And that was, I think, what really drove me to be interested in doing, or hopefully doing something like TV or plays, is because if you have a good play, I might get to see 30 different actresses in my lifetime play the same role and see kind of what they're taking on who or what that person is, and kind of get an idea of like how people view the person differently than others. And I think that that's one of the interesting things about writing in general, is that you can get inside somebody's head and give them something to dream about that that hopefully kind of takes shape into something really exciting. And that doesn't have to be necessarily becoming an actress. It could also be writing kind of an offshoot of the story, because I read an excellent book recently that was inspired by the crazy woman in the attic in Jane Eyre, Wide Sargasso Sea by Jean Rhys, I think. I'm not really sure how to pronounce her last name, but it was fantastic. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, this is the best book, critically acclaimed wise, that this lady wrote in her entire career, and it was completely inspired by a character in Jane Eyre. And I was thinking to myself, well, wouldn't that be just the coolest thing ever, is that your book was so interesting to one particular person that their entire career was built off of writing kind of a fictional story based off of your own working. So that's the kind of thing I want. Not that there's loose ends, but that the character herself is interesting enough that you're like, well, what did she do, or what would she have done, or how did she get here, and why did she choose that, or how did she deal with certain situations in her life that have already happened, and kind of get an idea of like, what really inspires people to follow a particular character from one point to another in their own life. I mean, not necessarily in the book. I mean, somebody's memorable enough, like Harry Potter, that you always think, or Hermione Granger, where you're like, what if these people were real, or what if I wrote a fan fiction about it? But yeah, I mean.
Yeah, there's a lot of inspiration everywhere. I think that all of us, especially the ones that go out and pursue something, whichever industry that they go into and become very successful, if you really get into finding out the main cause of why they did what they did, they get inspired by someone.
Yeah.
And we all do. We always get inspired by someone. There's always that person that gives us so much, they give us such an impact in our life,
Yeah.
that we go forward and kind of take like everything that they have done and not, like steal or anything like that, but you take it as your own, and and then you
trying to write stuff.
improvise it in your own way.
Yeah.
And regarding like certain writers, like, and you know, the whole controversial thing with the 50 Shades thing that became a mega hit. The writer of that book, her inspiration was the person that wrote Twilight.
Mm.
And she actually wanted to write this love story, you know, based loosely from Twilight, because she was a big fan of the writer. And that turned into something, and she made it her own, and now she has this whole mega thing with the novels.
What you might not have known is that Twilight also is fan fiction of Charlene Harris's like Living Dead series, or I think it's Living Dead, but what became the True Blood TV show on HBO.
Oh, okay.
So I think that you always are reading, and then you kind of get an idea of what's already been done, and you don't do that same thing. You do something slightly different.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of my biggest inspirations has always been Greek mythology, and so I was kind of, when I was coming to this story, I was thinking like, how do I mean, not to put it lightly, I really wanted to do a really good job, so I was like, you know, if I'm going to shoot high, I'm going to shoot at Romeo and Juliet, so how do I kind of get something similar or to that kind of level, but, you know, it's a really high bar to go for, so I have no idea if it's anywhere close to successful.
You're making small steps, which is very good. You already have people that are supporting you. You have, you know, your really good friend where you collaborated on this story, and you now have this book physically out, which is a proud moment.
Yeah.
You know, and there's more things to come. I know that in some given time you're going to come back and say, you know what, I'm in the process of, you know, finishing out another book.
Yeah.
And that will just keep going. And I'm really excited to see where you're going to go with all of this, because it's like you're doing more, like I said before, you're doing more than I would do.
Yeah.
I mean, you have, you know, and I don't want to sound too vulgar, but you have a pair of balls to just go out and do it.
Yeah.
And those people that are in the creative realm, like either if they're writers, they're artists, musicians, whatever, they're putting themselves, they're being vulnerable in the public by going out and expressing themselves.
Yeah.
And some people are not so comfortable doing it in that fashion.
Yeah.
So for you to really go out and say, hey, you know what, I tried this didn't work. I tried that didn't work. But you know what, the hell with it. I have this now, and it's bringing you traction.
Yeah.
And now you're getting the positive feedback from that. And that's the most important thing.
Exactly. You just have to keep trying different things. I've done a number of different events related to the book, and some of them have been very successful and some of them not so successful. But just being able to get or see people excited about it is really motivating. If you don't do anything, even if it's unsuccessful, if you didn't do it, you wouldn't have touched that one person, or you wouldn't have had that experience that said, you know, what you're doing is real, and what you're doing can be good or is good for someone somewhere. And so, like one of the speaking things I did happened to be on World Book Day, and only 3 people bought a book, but one of them was a singer who sings songs from the 40s and 50s, and she was like, wow, I love this idea, I love what you're doing, because this is my life, this is what I sing. And hearing her be excited about the book, I don't think she's finished it yet, but hearing kind of her progress and what she likes about it, and her saying like, wow, I can totally see this or this song being here or there, and I'm like, you go girl, this is really cool.
But listen, it's those positive feedbacks that you're getting that's the most important.
Yeah.
People are always going to have their own opinion. You could be, you know, the best writer out there, and people are always going to have something to say.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is that you're taking away the people that are taking what you're putting out there, and they're seeing it in a positive light.
Yeah.
And that's for me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And people can say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, this is how I see it. Are you out doing this?
Yeah.
No? Then don't say anything because you're not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my thing. People are very critical, and it's easy to criticize someone from the inside out,
Yeah.
and you're being the one that's exposed. But if you're changing and you're that person, that's not a great feeling.
Yeah.
Then you understand where that person is coming from. And and the other thing too is that the people that criticize are usually the ones that are not doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to take it with a grain of salt. It's like, okay, brush it off. And just take the ones that understand and that they see what you're doing and how that is influencing other people in a positive. That's all what matters.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the pleasure of being a critic for theater and cabaret for the last 4 months now, and that's been an interesting experience because what I realize is that while being a critic helps a cabaret singer improve their portfolio or say like, look at what somebody wrote about me, it's also really audience focused. You're helping somebody get an idea of whether or not they want to see the show or book a show or go out and learn some more about a particular writer or playwright. And from my perspective, you could say whatever you want about the book. I would be a lot happier with 1,000,003 stars on Amazon than 35 stars, because it would mean that people were actually reading it, not necessarily that they were enjoying it. I'd love for people to enjoy the story, but just being able to be a subject of discussion or give people an opportunity to kind of relate to their own lives and say, hey, this made me think of that, or going to like a book club or something and have something substantive to talk about rather than we all enjoyed the book, we don't really have any discussion points, okay, let's break. More like something like Yaya Sisterhood, where they're like actually doing things related to the book and kind of evolving together and growing and learning. And I think that's what a book can do more than anything else, hopefully.
Well, I can definitely see this book being the topic of conversation for a group of people having a book club, because I still see book clubs still alive.
Yeah.
And particularly women are into the whole getting together and having their glasses of wine and discussing books and stuff.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that happening where your book is going to be the subject of conversation. I think with my help, I can definitely put it out there a little bit more. Have you had a launch party or anything like that regarding your book, or
I did 2 like books and booze events. They weren't really launch parties per se in terms of like near the day of, but what we did was we did $20, you got a book and 2 beers, and we did one in Lower East Side and we did one in West Village at bars that either my or my friends had been regulars at, and then we donated the proceeds to charity. So one of them went to BPAN. One of my friend's daughters had been diagnosed with BPAN, which is a neurological disorder, last year, and she's 5 years old. And I don't think she's gonna develop past that age. And then the other one was for the Tisch Medical Center, which was the owner of the bar's wife had MS, and so we donated the proceeds to MS.
So on top of that, it's going for a good cause.
Trying our best.
And listen, you're a good Samaritan and overall a great person.
Thank you.
And we'll talk sometime and see how we can get you a official launch party and get you going and get you out there so that people can get their hands on your book and
Wow.
definitely get you out there, because you know what, There are some people that are like a diamond in the rough, where people are not familiar with them, and they're unheard of. And it takes one person to really put them out there so that they get that recognition, and from there they then become known. And you're so humble about your experiences, and it's like I said before, you have accomplished a lot. You might think it's not so much, but you have, and that is what counts. And on top of that, you're doing it for great things for other people that give impact to other people overall. And those are the things that I love to be part of.
Yeah.
I always try to help other people out, and I do it because I love to just work with people, engage with people, and that's just what I do on the day to day. So
Yeah.
if I can do something to help you out, to really put it out there so that you can really give impact on other people, then I would do it 100% straightforward, because you're doing it for within. You're doing it from your heart, and you're the type of people that I just love to get involved, and just try to work overall just to get positive out there.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
We
no.
live in and I get a little bit lost for words, because we live in a society, we live in a world where there is vast improvement in certain things, but
Yeah.
we're also regressing in other things.
Yeah.
And the thing is that we still have a long way to go to really be together as a whole,
Mhm.
as individuals, as a group.
Yeah.
And I still see where people are not, trying to make an effort to really connect and help the other individual out.
Yeah.
And that's why we exist. I mean, we exist to survive, yes, but we also have to exist to coexist with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you hit on something really key there too, that I think you have to be humble to be a really good artist. And I think that when it came to this story in particular, I was just like, I'm going to put everything I got into this, not necessarily in terms of experiences, but passion, because you never know. I mean, you have to put yourself second, and other people, the reader, first, and hope that that you give them something to enjoy rather than yourself. And I think there's some really talented writers out there that are doing similar things. One of them that I think I've been following lately is Rachel Kushner, because I think she's writing a book based in the Middle East, and she actually went out to the Middle East and put her own self at risk for literature. And I think that's something that you have to do, and I think that's the only way that you're going to do something really exciting that touches other people.
Yeah, definitely. So, Chris, what other pending projects do you have, or do you have in mind to go forward? Yeah.
I just actually started writing my next book. I've been thinking about it for a little while. The actual content is going to be a little more of a secret because it's an active book, but the title itself is called The Sun Never Set. I guess I can give a little bit of a brief overview on it as well. It's a story about my semester abroad in Bangkok, rearranged so that it puts me kind of in a little bit of a worse light, but also is a little bit more of an exciting story. Mm-hmm. So some things that happen at the end will happen at the beginning, and then things that happen at the beginning will happen at the end, to kind of make it more of a narrative rather than other words. Yeah.
That sounds exciting. And any other collaborations in the works for you, in regards to just general in writing?
Working on things. I'd like to learn a little bit more about how to write plays, honestly, and kind of get an idea of how that actually works. Because I saw The Sweet Bird of Youth by Tennessee Williams, and I was so blown away by the production that I was like, wow, this would be really cool. Not only be able to impact a reader or a viewer, but also to touch somebody who's actually an actor or an actress in terms of giving them a role to play that fits who they are. And to give you a little bit of background on Sweet Bird of Youth, he wrote it because a friend of his had told him some suicidal thoughts in 56, and then in 59 he produces the play, and it's written for a female lead, but the male lead in its first production happened to be Paul Newman, and without that play he never would have been a successful Hollywood actor. That was basically the final Broadway play of his Broadway career that launched him into Hollywood. And you have Cool Hand Luke, you got Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. You didn't have Sweet Bird of Youth, you never would have found Paul Newman. So, and I think that to be able to do something like that would be really interesting. So I've been going down to the South Theater, getting to know them a little bit. There are a couple different groups that meet there to talk about how to write plays specifically, and I'm a complete novice when it comes to writing plays. I hope that my experience writing dialogue is going to help out. That's the thing that I care the most about when it comes to a book, is the dialogue. So hopefully, if I can take what I learned in terms of writing dialogue for books and move it into plays, make it a little bit more plot focused rather than person to person focused, it might turn into something beautiful. But that's part of that is because I want to try to see if I can make this guy, Kennig Gold, into a play fit for at least off Broadway. But I'm a few steps away from that, so I don't know how many years those steps will take. But I hope that being able to learn or knowing how to learn will help learn or adapt to theater plays, playwriting.
Well, those steps are coming closer than you think. You just have to
Keep trucking away.
keep your mind into putting yourself into that path, and it'll happen for you. And people overall, they when they're doing something, sometimes they can't see where their progression is going to be.
Yeah.
And other people can see it. So I definitely see you going in that path. I wanted to ask you something. When you get into writing mode,
Yeah.
how do you get into that? Like when you're ready to start writing a book, like is it that you go through a process? Is there how does that go? Yeah.
I would say I try to have just a lot of ideas going, and a lot of them I abandon, unfortunately, for those abandoned ideas. But because some of them sound really cool at first, but really the ones that stick and you can't stop thinking about, those are the ones that are important to keep. And so I'll have one, and I'll try to get an idea of how long it might take me to get down an outline, and then come up with characters, and then get down an outline. And then I try to actually sit down and just go from start to finish, no writing of the end before the beginning, all beginning to end, and have like step by step, 10 pages a day, just grind it out. And some days I don't hit the 10 pages, but if I don't hit it one day, if I hit 8, then I'll try to hit 12 the next day. And for this next one, I literally just started it, so unfortunately didn't write a single page yesterday, but got 4 already done today, and I'm gonna try to get another 6 or 16 before the end of the day. Yeah.
So okay, so you have a set goal for yourself when you're writing.
Yeah,
So you say, okay, I'm gonna write out X amount of pages.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever.
Circumstances, exactly. I mean, I think that, like I said, the 2 of the books I wrote while working full time, and one of them I was working like 60 hours a week, and I was really, what was important when that was the case was that if I didn't hit a writing goal because I was just tired, and then it happens, you get tired, I would make it up later, and I wasn't worried about
misspelling or a grammatical error, because I knew I'd read it the next day and see kind of where it was at. And then it's important to put in perspective, when you're writing a certain amount of pages, what that means in terms of words, and what your goal will be in terms of like a word count. Maybe not overall for the book if you haven't written that many books before, but for how many words per page you want. So if you're writing like 250 words per page, that's kind of like new author area. A fantasy book might be closer to like 230 words per page, whereas when you're really focusing on dialogue and you're focusing on fast-moving action, you're doing about 200 words per page, which is more Ernest Hemingway and Stephen King my idols. So for this book, that was the goal, was to write 2,000 words a day, and then see kind of where that fell out in terms of pages and words per page. And I think that once you hit that number, 2,000, you can try to get a little bit higher and go up to like the 2,200, 2,300 mark.
Okay, and here's another interesting question I want to ask. When you're in your creative flow, what time during the day does that occur? Because I know this creative individuals, they always have a certain time that it's like the most the best time. From what I've seen, it's usually the early hours of the morning, like the 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning is usually when most people have like their that creative flow. Other people might be late in the evening, but I'm just kind of curious, like what is usually like your time?
So if I had my way of things, it would be the morning, like wake up, 8 a.m. or something, and then start writing at 9 and try to get done by 1. And that would be the nicest, and that'd be the most, that would be the easiest in terms of the creative process, and that's definitely the easiest on a weekend. But when you're working full-time, obviously that's not an option. So what I do is I drink coffee after work, and then I try to take a 20-minute nap. And then I wake up out of that nap, just go. And usually, I think I would start writing somewhere between 10 and 11 p.m. and I try to get it done before 4 a.m. rolled around, because going to work on 3 hours of sleep is not always the nicest, but
not exactly. No, but you know what? There's a lot of dedication there, and that's the key component. When you have that dedication and you have that drive, it won't set you back.
Yeah, it definitely gets easier. Not necessarily the lack of sleep, but the writing, so that by at the start of the book it might take until 3, 4 a.m., but then towards the end I'm on a little bit more of a roll, and it's faster writing, so I might start at the same time but end 3 hours earlier, and then I can sit back and say, wow, well, kudos to me today, pat on the back, this went pretty well. So that's like a good day at the office, is you write the 2,000 words in 2 hours and you're sitting there like, yes, now I can go to sleep.
Have you ever considered doing maybe a vlog where you go through
The writing process?
and kind of see it from beginning to end, and kind of see yourself after you completed a whole book?
I think that'd be an interesting process. One of the things that's really important, which makes writing inherently difficult, and I'm sure it's very similar with other creative arts, you have to be alone a lot of the time, and especially when you're thinking about something. So like a meditation schedule or something would be really helpful. I don't do a really good job of that necessarily, but being able to kind of keep yourself locked up in a cabinet or something and not being a social animal as we need to be helps in terms of getting the actual writing done. And the less you're out and the less you do, the less you talk to people, the more you kind of imagine talking to people, which is what writing is, right? Imagination at work. So if I was to do a vlog, I think it would be something somebody else would have to be kind of like the major force in, and then kind of see how it works. I guess if it worked and you kind of got an idea of the writing process, that would be really exciting. If it didn't work, you'd at least get a documentary out of it, and you'd be like, well, we couldn't maybe post it immediately, but look at what video we did get and see how it went from start to finish.
Yeah, I think it would be an interesting take, because every day you're not going to feel the same when you're writing. There might be days that you're going to be very excited and putting all that energy in, and there might be days that you're putting that energy in, but it's not the same. Like the emotions are not the same.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you capture something on camera, through your journey, you can reflect on it afterwards.
Learn a little bit about it.
Yeah, and you can see where transitions have been made through that journey.
Yeah.
From the beginning, you're like, oh, really excited and this and that. And sometimes in the middle of that project, you might feel a certain way, and then at the end, you have like the relief, or you're feeling more amped up than when you first started. So it's good to have like a take of what your emotions are, what your train of thought was on a day-to-day until completion, and not just to put it out in the public per se, just overall, but also to see yourself in that element.
I mean, it's a really interesting concept, especially when you said relief. I was like, there are a lot of times, I think that's one of the biggest things. It's not so much, being gung-ho about a project, but being like, yes, okay, it's done. Like, I got this.
You might go in nervous about where it's going to go, where it leads you. And then that moment that you finally feel accomplished, that you completed that's a relief on its own.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, wow, like I actually went and finished everything from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And and it's not just in writing, but I think in overall, when you put yourself and you give yourself standards to complete something, once you complete it, it's a great feeling that you have afterwards, that you accomplished that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would really be very interesting in terms of, what is the difference, maybe even in routine between one day and another that makes up, a difference in terms of words per page. I know one thing that's really simple is you really can drink while you're working on a project, and I know that.
It alters your mental state when you're trying to write. So your story might be directed something completely left field sometimes.
I think I struggle to write. I like to read drunk. Actually, that's my tidbit of advice. If you can read a book drunk, it's I like it more than other books. But being able to write even the day after is pretty difficult. So and it doesn't even take that many drinks. I think it's one thing to talk about. It's another thing to actually do.
You sound a lot like a friend of mine who I had here through a discussion a couple of weeks back. His name is Jay, and he went through the same thing. He was going through starting up his companies, and he was basically hanging out with his friends that were also into, starting up their business and all of that. So they were all into partying, drinking, and all of that. And he started to reflect on it. He said, "I can't drink because I'm not accomplishing anything. And second, I really need to execute what I'm doing because I'm representing what it is to be a entrepreneur, and now I'm kind of like hanging with these people and it's not taking me anywhere." So he stopped drinking, and he said that he has done more in a short period of time than when he was drinking previously. And he's very focused on what he's doing, and he's exceeding and excelling in what he's doing now. And even now he's like, I set the bar for now the next step of what I'm trying to do with taking my business and having it take off on a higher level. So now I'm cutting back on other recreational stuff as well, because my goal is to be able to get X amount of people recognizing what I'm doing with my company.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you have to sacrifice certain things that gives us some type of recreational gratification. If it's like the smoking, if it's the drinking, it's the whatever. Sometimes you have to refrain from that because you're trying to get your focus in what you're doing.
There's only one thing I think that really does still help to create a process, and that's coffee drinking. So
no. I am all for coffee. If they had the coffee Addiction Anonymous, I would be the first one there because I drink a lot of coffee throughout the day. Because it keeps you wired. When you have coffee or you have caffeine overall, your adrenaline is always on the go, and your creative thoughts are always like on point. For me, my creative thoughts are always early in the morning, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's where all of the creativeness goes, and then I have to try to keep it in writing because then I'll forget. Because it's like so many things are at once, and then trying to execute that.
You got to write stuff down. Even if you still remember it, writing stuff down is helpful because it gives you a chance to reflect on what you're working on.
No, definitely.
But that coffee haze to 2 or 3 in the morning, that's like, if you can always get that, that's perfect, but not always.
I hear you. Caffeine is my fix. So without it, I can't function. I'm a totally different person without it. Chris, for the people out there that want to get a copy of your book, or want to get in contact with you to know what you're up to and all of that, where can they find you?
So I'm active on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but the easiest way would be through email via my website, struckchris.com. And then to get a copy of the book, it's available on Amazon. I self-published it through Amazon, and it's also now showing up on Barnes & Noble. So somebody actually told me they got it on Nook, which I was surprised because I didn't realize that would just happen. I thought that I had to do that myself, but apparently it's on Barnes & Noble also, and through Amazon.
Oh wow, okay. So that means that you're moving up?
Doing something right.
You're definitely moving up. And guys, for all of you out there that want to check us out, the Work Your Money podcast, you can find us on iTunes and Stitcher. You can also find the audio and video if we have live people on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Work Your Money or Work Your Money podcast. And Chris, do you have any other books that you may want to recommend for anybody out there?
I would say if you're thinking about writing, there are 2 writers that are more recent that have been really huge inspirations to me. One of them I already mentioned, Rachel Kushner, but another one would be Cormac McCarthy. And a friend's dad, I went back to see the game. I graduated from Michigan. We unfortunately lost, but I went to Thanksgiving at a friend's parents' place out in Grand Rapids, and you recommend Cormac McCarthy. And that has been the best recommendation I've gotten from anybody because he's fantastic writer. I started with the Border trilogy and was blown away. So if you read anybody, I would recommend those 2, Rachel Kushner and Cormac McCarthy.
So there you have it, guys. I had the pleasure of having Chris Struck right here at Work Your Money Podcast at B-Box Radio Station. Shout out to Roxanne. And guys, until the next time, this is the Work Your Money Podcast. I bid everyone a great day.
Thanks for showing.
Take care. Bye.